Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Monday, March 18th, 2019. This morning, one of the top stories, a mass shooting in the Netherlands, saying a tram shooting. And this comes on the back of Friday's Christchurch mosque shooting. The image being put out of the suspect, they're saying he's a Turkish man. They'll likely say he's of an Islamic background. They'll likely come out and say this is retaliation for what happened in Christchurch. And what people need to know is that these events are being contrived by the police forces of the world, by the governments of the world, by the New World Order. Here's the photo from this past Saturday of the supposed Christchurch shooter, who they chose to blur out his face after they'd already released the image of his face in the media, which doesn't make any sense. It's probably not even the same person. And you can see that he's doing the 666 hand gesture, which we covered over the weekend. People are also saying that's connected to white power. It very well might be. But notice, why is he posing next to two police officers? This only happens in these manufactured psyops, these psychological operations that are meant to emotionally impact the people of the world, meant to keep them living in fear, meant to keep them living in hatred and division among all lines that can divide us from race to religion. Look at these police officers. When they do this, when they grab the wrist like this, what this is the hidden hand pose when you can't tuck it inside your clothing because you're wearing a police vest. This is the Masonic hidden hand. This is a Masonic ritual right here. These men essentially represent the two pillars, which have a lot to do with division, which again is what these psyops have to do with. All throughout the world, government, police, and media are conspiring against the people of the world with events like this, the Christchurch shooting, now this today, and the countless other shootings and knife attacks that have been going on, going back to September 11, 2001, and even really before that. This is an ongoing agenda by a code, a very repetitive code. So let's look at today's encoding. The Masonic motto is order out of chaos. Chaotic situations include shootings. You have these shootings, they scare people. The order that's brought about is taking away people's rights and liberties and building up the police force, building up the surveillance state. Order out of chaos, the numerical value from this code of gematria is 183. 183, just like the date, March 18th, 18/3. Further, March 18th, 2019, date with 33 numerology and 33, very symbolic number of masonry. In gematria, order, secrecy, masonry, police, they all sum to 33. If you want to add another relevant set of words to that, false flag equals 33. And a false flag is when somebody does something and it gets blamed on a party that's not responsible. Think about the London attacks on June 3rd. That was the day the truth community put out the footage of the police officers caught red-handed changing costumes and playing the part of terrorists and then posing dead in the street. All throughout the world, police are carrying out these terrorist attacks. And don't forget that the original definition of government is the original definition of terrorism is government by intimidation. But all throughout the world, the police are carrying out these attacks and blaming it on boogeymen and falsifying images using AI. And just look at the images that they always put out. Why are they always so blurry and grainy and pixelated? You know, we're in the age of HD cameras everywhere, yet they continue to give us these images that look like they're from 2 decades ago. Why? It's all part of the mockery. It's all part of the programming, you know. Don't forget, 2 years ago on March 22nd, the airport attack in Brussels. And March 22nd will be on Friday this year. Don't forget March 22nd either. That's 3 months and 22 days after the death of Mr. 322 George Herbert Walker Bush. But at that airport attack, if you can go back and look at the images they put out, just the most pixelated, ridiculous images ever. And then telling the people of the world to look out for these people. Go back and look at the images. Ridiculous. Mockery. So today's date, it does have numerology of 33. This is the life lesson number method. You take the whole numbers 3 plus 18 plus 20 plus 19. Today's date also has a 60 connection. Police and order are also 60. The difference here is this is the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z is 26. Here it's the alphabetic order, but the rules of numerology. So P, for example, it's the 16th letter of the alphabet. So here, where police is 60, P's worth 16. Here you take the numerology as 16, which is 1 plus 6 is 7. So P's 7. O, the 15th letter, becomes 1 plus 5 is 6. L, the 12th letter, becomes 1 plus 2 is 3. So on. I's 9, C's 3, E's 5. Here you just add up using the alphabetic order. But today's date numerology also 60. Police and order 60. Order out of chaos. Who's fulfilling this agenda? As my man Mark Passio would say, he'd say the order followers, which primarily are the police and military, the henchmen of the New World Order. They're calling this a tram shooting. Notice tram shooting with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology 60. You'll find that all of these major false flags in the world, the names given, the dates given, the locations given, they always sync up. Always. This is how the rituals are conducted, without fail. The other thing about today, March 18th, is it's the 77th day of the year. And 77 is always a big number in false flags. Go back to September 11th. You had Flight 77 hit the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian, exactly 77 minutes after taking off. They said the plane took off at 8:20 and crashed at 9:37, right in the 9/11 Commission report. And then you learn gematria and you realize September 11th equals 77, and so does World Trade Center. In this case, so does police officer, so does police department. It is the police carrying out these terrorist acts, period. Period, period, period. Sometimes they might have a mind control patsy, and they're usually from the military. So notice, just September 11th, 77, World Trade Center, 77. Secret Society is also 77, so is power. This comes on the back of the Christchurch shooting. Christ is 77. And don't forget that they said that shooter had connections to Anderson Breivik, who's responsible for the killing of 77 people on July 22nd, 2011. You also have the London 7/7 bombings. And in between all of these events, if you've been following my work over the years, we show how this number is routinely coded into these rituals as well. This is another trademark number. These people speak through numbers. This is a number they like. So here we are on the 77th day of the year, on the back of the Christchurch shooting, just connected to the Oslo attacks that killed 77. Now, what's interesting about the Oslo attack and today is the Oslo attack was July 22nd, a date written 22/7. When you divide 22 by 7, you get pi. Pi, having to do with cycles and circles. The attack that just happened in New Zealand on March 15th, a lot of the world was still in March 14th, which is Pi Day when that happened, 314. What's interesting about today, March 18th, that date's written 18/3 or 3/18. In the case of 3/18, the inverse of pi is dividing 7 by 22, which gets you 0.318. Pi, mathematics, cycles, circles, numerical rituals. Stuff is not coincidental. You learn this code, you see how often these numbers are used. Very repetitive. Extremely. The head of the EU came out today. His name's Jean-Claude Juncker. Couldn't help but notice his name had gematria like Freemasonry. He had his condolences. You also had the mayor of Utrecht come out, Jan van Zanen. Zanen, however you say it. His name has gematria 58, like Freemasonry, like Rosicrucian, like secret society. Again, it is Freemasonry in high places that control government and police throughout the world. There are many different Masonic networks, many different occult networks that participate in these rituals, but understand the common link is Freemasonry, and especially the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Freemasonry came out of the Rosicrucian order. If you have not read my book, there's a very long list of 58 that has to do with Freemasonry, their rituals. Very special number to them. And as I always remind, King James, a Scottish Rite, Freemason, a Rosicrucian, he dropped dead at age 58. Further, today's shooting was in Utrecht, Netherlands, which equals 271. That's the 58th prime number. For you people in the U.S., don't forget George W. Bush, a name that equals 58. He supposedly won the election with 271 electoral votes after his brother's state came through. King George II, as I call him, following his papa. Anyway, 271, 58 numbers you see together all the time. So go figure that the mayor there has the connection to the location. Now, they put out the name of the shooter. They said he was a 37-year-old, right? And they said his name was Gokman Tanis. And we'll get to what this name means. They had to change the spelling, though. At first, they released it with an A. Then they said, oh, no. His name has an E. And, of course, Gokman Tanis sums to 47. Here I am, the person that runs the What is 47 campaign because of how much this is encoded in the propaganda. And as we just talked about, in the New Zealand shooting, it came a span of 47 days from the establishment of the Grand Masonic Lodge there, and not by accident. There's 47 degrees on the Masonic compass. Government's 47, so is authority, so is policeman, so is cop. It's set at 47 degrees as a tribute to the 47th problem of Euclid, which is about how to establish foundation. Foundation equals 47. At the top of the compass is the pole star. Pole star equals 47. This is a number of Freemason obsession, a number that's in practically every ritual, and a number that's coded into a lot more things than just what you see here. But just understand, this is the common connection. Government is mind control. These incidents are meant to mind control the populace. This language of letters and numbers comes from Kabbalah, mysticism, which has a dark side, which is also about casting spells to have influence over people, you know. Spelling, spell. Think about how we use the word spell in English. The police spokesperson in the New Zealand shooting, his name was Mike Bush, by the way, 47. Go figure. And it was on the Ides of March to remember the killing of Caesar, Caesar 47. So anyway, here we are today, and now we have... Oh, by the way, with regards to this guy posing between the police officers and this supposedly meaning white power, don't forget that white power also carries the gematria of 47, and white supremacist carries the gematria of 74, and the shooting was on the 74th day of the year. Anyway, today's shooter, gematria 47. They say he's Turkish, which carries the gematria value of 47. They emphasize 3 dead in the headlines because that phrase equals 47, which we've talked about many times before. And they said he's 37 years old. Shooting equals 37. And we just talked about how the Christchurch shooting was on a date with 37 numerology. These shootings 3 days apart. Gokman Tanis, the name also carries gematria of 61 like active shooter. 61's the 18th prime number. Here we are in 2018. Or excuse me. No, we're not. I meant to say here we are on the 18th of March. 61, the 18th prime number. Gokman Tanis, 61. We just talked about this number in regards to the last active shooter as well. Christchurch shooting, a mosque shooting in Christchurch on the 74th day of the year. Just in case you missed the work on the March 15th, Ides of March, 74th day of the year shooting, you're definitely going to want to go back and check that out because there's so much important information, but active shooters also 74. So is killing, so is English, so is gematria, so is Jewish, so is tarot, so is Masonic, so is occult. All these things are related. Christchurch, Jesus Christ 74, Jesus, Messiah, Cross, Gospel Parables. Just think about it. Muhammad 74, so is Lucifer. Pitting the people against the world by an agenda, a mosque shooting in Christchurch. It's just right there on the surface, so self-explanatory. You know. So anyway, now right on the back of that, now we get a Muslim man attacking in a predominantly white nation, a predominantly Christian nation. This is just how they play the people of the world against each other. They get them worked up. They get them angry. You know, they probably got young people wanting to go out and sign up for the military today to fight brown people. You probably got brown people wanting to do the same thing against white people. This is how the New World Order operates. Mass mind control through mass international propaganda every single day. But for the record, regards to 61, again, we're talking about how that's relevant to this shooting. Also connects right here. Christian, Jesus, Cross, John. 61 is the 18th prime number. 61, a very special number in sacred geometry. If you have not read my book, in the early chapters, we really go into the depth of 61. So understand, these are not arbitrary numbers. See how they the photo published by police is timestamped at 1041. In numerology, you just lose the 0, so you have a 141 there. If you write out 33, it's 141, and again, police is 33. Remember, we got 4 ciphers: alphabetic order with rules of numerology, reverse alphabetic order with numerology. You want to know all 4 of those ciphers. But they had to change his name. At first, they put it out wrong. So I wanted to look up what the name means. The meaning of the name Gokman is blue-eyed, fair-haired man. So pretty much like a physical description of the people of the Netherlands. It's interesting. Turkish name. They say he is Turkish. And the name Tanis, Slavic name, means to make famous. And what happens when you do a mass shooting? Everybody gets to learn your name. Also, Utrecht, where this just happened, has the gematria of 94 and 40, just like terror is 94 and 40. And I pointed out in the Christchurch shooting, it came exactly 94 days after the news of the Brazil church shooting and the Paris Christmas market shooting. Remember, in 2 days, we got 2 international stories of people targeting the Christian faith. And then 94 days later, you get the mosque shooting in Christchurch. And as we said, terrorist equals 94. You watch my video on the Christchurch shooting. I pointed out how the shooter was from Australia and how Australia had just seen 2 terrorist incidents exactly 94 weeks apart in Melbourne to the day. Terror 94. Today it's Utrecht 94. The police station in Christchurch, their address was 40. The police station just blocks away, but somehow there was no police response during the entire time of the New Zealand shooting. Terror, Utrecht. Also, with regards to this being a tram shooting, tram has this gematria of 52 as well. Notice Utrecht, 52, 52nd parallel. NWO for New World Order, 52. Government also 52. So is authority. So is Kabbalah. So is the Cabal. I just want to type in government here. With the reverse alphabetic order in numerology, government's 47. With the alphabetic order in numerology, government's 52. You see? Authorities that way. A lot of things are that way. Here in the United States, president's that way, 47, 52. White House that way. A lot of things. And just coming back to government, notice the 137, that's the 33rd prime. Again, we have this 33 date numerology. Government, the real terrorism. Look at mind control, which is what government means. Mind control. And what part of the mind? What part of the mind? You know, the mind's eye, the pineal gland. Kundalini. Kundalini, important to Freemasonry. By the way, Kundalini has the gematria of 58 like Freemasonry. Kundalini is about the spiritual ascension up the 33 bones of the human vertebrae, enlightening the mind's eye. I kneel. And what's interesting is people's 33, persons 33. So these numbers, they have symbolism. They're not arbitrary. And there's a reason that they're used repetitively in these rituals. The same set of numbers again and again and again. And I suspect that this won't be the last false flag that we see this week. We are living under an agenda that's quickening, becoming more severe. Pay attention to what's happening in the world. There's less room to speak out everywhere. We're in the age of information. We have this thing called the World Wide Web, but we're seeing more and more censorship. Compare YouTube now to 2 years ago. 2 years ago, a mass shooting, you'd go on YouTube and you'd see all of this individual content, individual opinions, information bits that people collected who are paying attention in the world and who want to help share truth. 2 years ago, YouTube, that's your first page of your feed would be nothing but individual reporting. People like myself. Oftentimes, I was the top post when there was a mass shooting because I'm usually the first person out with information. Now you go to YouTube. Let's just look. You go to YouTube and you look Utrecht shooting. You're going to see big news agencies. BBC, CBC, BBC. Wow, BBC, man. By the way, what is BBC? It's 223. And everybody should know what 223 is. The Synagogue of Satan is 223. Of course, they're written about in a letter to the Church of Philadelphia in the Bible. And if you use Jewish gematria, which is also very important, Masonics 223. Don't forget what the BBC is. Every time you read about a dead BBC journalist, apply this code, you'll see how they were actually murdered. A lot of suspicious deaths with BBC reporters that we've covered over the years. France 24, Time, see, I mean, there's just nothing, it's just all news networks. This is not the way YouTube used to be. And remember, it was about a year and a half ago that the Wall Street Journal wrote the article saying that, the only thing that should show up on YouTube when there's a massive news story is the news. Said it's time to clear out the illegitimate journalists. As if the mainstream news media is legitimate. It's nothing but a propaganda programming mouthpiece. And it's just a tragedy. And for those of you who wonder if RT is legitimate, they're not. They're better than the rest of the mainstream, but they pass along the propaganda too. So this is what YouTube is now. It's not YouTube anymore. It's corporate tube. It's news tube. And by the way, what is 47? I was talking about government in 47. News is 47. News got that coding of 61. Notice mind control 61, just like news. That's what it's here for, to mind control you. The words of English are not arbitrarily thought out. They're based on codes that came before it. Numbers are encoded that were made relevant before English even existed. But it's just a shame more people in the world don't have this knowledge. And one other thing I can say is my book, which I'll pin as the top post, you really should read it because one of the longest chapters in the book is about the manufactured shootings over many decades. The many false flags to take away rights and liberties and to build up the police state, and the perfect repetitive patterns that they follow, incident after incident. Stuff's been going on for decades. The people of the world need to wake up to it. My book's nearly 800 pages long. It's only $5. This past Friday, it was banned from 2 sites that were selling it. I now have it up on a site, which it looks like they're going to keep it up. And if you care about what's going on in the world, you really have to know this knowledge. I'm telling you, there's nothing that is more important in the truth community than understanding this knowledge. And there's other important things, there's other great work, but this is the code that the New World Order works by every single day without fail, contriving all of their propaganda. And it's always the same stuff. It's the order out of chaos agenda. It's the 33 stamp. It's the 47 stamp. You know, it's the active shooters on dates that correspond with active shooter. So, and just realize every time there's one of these mass shootings, well, almost every time there's one of these mass shootings, the shooter shoots themselves. But whenever they don't, they always have a pose like this with the police. And for anybody who's ever been arrested before, I mean, when were you ever posing with the police? Only when it's a psychological operations, you know. If you missed all my work on Christchurch, be sure to check it out. I put out a lot of content, including the news about the Whitechapel shooting in London, or not shooting, but the hammer attack at the mosque the same day, which was more divisive propaganda, no doubt carried out by the police henchmen. There's only one answer to overcoming the New World Order agenda, and that's worldwide. People need to learn to not support their governments. If you vote, you support your government. If you pay taxes, you support your government. Worldwide, we need to take a stand. No more voting for these rigged elections. It's the same thing worldwide. No more paying for these governments that are here to enslave us and create needless hatred and division and war and killing. This is what they do. No. Then they want to blame these boogeymen with these grainy, pixelated images, which are contrived. So, we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. I will pin with the top post where you can pick up the book. If you don't get that book, you're missing out on truly the most important knowledge there is about the English language, and at the bargain of all bargain prices. Guarantee you'll get more out of my book than you've ever gotten out of any 4-year education program that costs you tens of thousands of dollars. Imagine if you could go to college for $5. It's pretty much what it is. Until next time.